Source Podcast. The Source Podcast. The Source Podcast. The Source Podcast.
The Source Force.
Matt Sammons, welcome to the Source Force podcast.
Great to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you on.
No problem at all.
So you are now currently a franchisee,
Yes.
owner,
Yeah.
but it all started back in school.
It did.
So you went to Barnard Castle School,
Yeah.
and everyone thinks, oh, you go to private school, you're set for life.
Yeah.
But it wasn't always the case with you.
No, not at all.
So did you leave school with many GCSEs? How did that pan out for you?
Yeah, I remember the day very vividly. All my family are up, and it was like, oh my God, Matt's getting his GCSE results, and I was dreading it. Never been academic at all, but I got 4 C's and 4 D's. I was absolutely buzzing with that. I really wasn't academic at all. I didn't enjoy school. I enjoyed the sport element of it, but I just knew that like the academia route was not for me. I had no intention of doing A levels. I had no intention of going to university. I just purely wanted to get out and work.
Yeah.
That was it.
Wow. So how do you think that impacted, like that sort of resilience impacted your future decisions?
I think that I've always been a hard worker. I think I've always had a good work ethic, and I've always had a very positive outlook on life. And I'm sort of a big believer that if you work hard, then people will see that. And I think that I had a really good sort of 20 years in the leisure industry, which really broadened my horizons. And I think that people recognised that I worked hard, I had a personality, I was enthusiastic, I had a drive, I had an inner belief. And I think those things that people picked up on, and luckily I had some good bosses that sort of saw the best of me, really.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So you kind of left school, and then what did you do from there instead of going down the traditional?
I did an apprenticeship because it was something that I could get a qualification in hospitality. I went to work in a hotel, but it was a hotel, it was a pub, it was a restaurant, there was conferencing. So there was lots of facet to it.
Yeah.
I was on like £4.50 or something an hour. I couldn't drive at the time, and it was in Darlington. I lived in a place called Hutton Magna. I had really supportive parents who dropped me off at the bus station or dropped me off in Darlington. But I can remember vividly sometimes, sort of cycling to a bus stop and then getting 2 buses to work, doing a 12-hour shift and then back. And then some nights I'd stay over in the hotel if I was on early the next morning. And literally I had to do everything from setting up the bar to cleaning to... And then I just worked my way up to duty manager. And I never loved the industry, but I enjoyed all the different parts of it. So you're dealing with a chef 1 minute, then you're dealing with hotel guests, then you're dealing with reception. So there's so many different things you needed to be able to sort of turn your hand to. And I quite like that. But I knew that industry wasn't for me. I knew I wanted to get into bars and clubs because they had far more razzmatazz, far more fun. And that really was when I sort of found my feet, really. I went up to Newcastle with a big wedge of CVs and quite simply went and put them under doors.
Wow.
And there was a club called Mood at the time, which was really big in the gate. And I remember my first boss, James Mackey was his name, and he was really strict, but he saw something in me. And it started from there, really. And I ran a student night called Rude at Mood, and my job was to go around all the sports captains and sort of entice them to bring their team to our club.
Wow.
And this Wednesday night, where we'd take about 1,500 quid, we end up getting it over sort of 15 grand every Wednesday. And then they used to come on Mondays, Tuesdays. And that's how I made my name, really. Then I got called a student liaison officer. So my job was just a network. So I really enjoyed that because it was just going out and I was offering like the netball captain free drinks, but bring your team down. And then it sort of evolved from there really into a really big night. And that's how I caught the eye of the directors. They're like, oh, this guy's got a little bit about him. And that was it, really.
Oh,
I was in nightclubs ever since.
Wow, that's brilliant. So when did you take the step from working for someone else to kind of...
Yeah, I think I ended up running like 3 clubs for them in the end. Yeah. And not via the same company, but the directors bought another company and I moved with them. Went down to Manchester, ran a club down there, and then they bought some bars up in Newcastle. And I think I really enjoyed it. I was making good money, but you're working all day, every day in the bar industry, and they're really antisocial hours. And you're getting in at 4 a.m. You're listening to booming music all night. You don't get to sleep until 6 in the morning, and then the day starts again at 9 o'clock. 'Cause people start ringing you, deliveries coming, and then Alfie came along, my little boy, and I was like, I just can't keep doing this. So that was when I took the plunge to. I thought I've got to set up on my own here. And I never found a decent cleaning contractor. I thought, well, that's an industry which is like recession proof. That's an industry that someone will always need cleaners. Yeah. I thought, I've never had a decent cleaning contractor. I'll do that. I went to a franchise exhibition. I was actually going to do a McDonald's.
Oh, really?
So that was 9 months training.
Yeah.
You don't get paid. You do all facets of McDonald's, and then they can put you anywhere. You don't necessarily get somewhere up in the north.
Really?
And I just thought, no, not for me. But the big thing that turned me was you had to do an exam at the end of it. And I just thought, you know what, I could do all this and fail the exam because dyslexic. And, I just thought, I've just got no chance. So, and then it was at that franchise exhibition where I went to have a look at a McDonald's and came across NIC. And that was a cleaning franchise. And they sort of sold me the dream, if you like. But I sort of bought into it that, right, okay, so I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to do this myself. They've got the name, they've got the back of house stuff. I've just got to go and try and win the business. I thought, I can do that. And that's how it started.
Wow. So do you think growing up you always were kind of entrepreneurial? Or do you think it came with your jobs that you did?
I think so much at school you're told you've got to pass this, you've got to do that, you've got to do that. And I remember always thinking there's got to be more to life than getting an A in geography, an A in history, an A. There's got to be more to life than that. If I'm not going to achieve that, does that mean I'm not going to achieve in life if I don't get these grades? Or there's got to be more. And I looked at sort of like like Alan Sugar and people like that, and I remember thinking, well, they failed all their GCSEs, they left with nothing, and look what he's built now. And I'm thinking, it can't just be that you've got to be good academic to make anything in life. And teachers keep saying to you, if you don't work hard at school, you're not going to achieve anything. And I remember thinking, well, I am working hard, but I'm not achieving much. But there's got to be more to life. So did I have an entrepreneurial spirit? Apparently so. My mum and dad used to say that I was always willing to work on holidays if I could pick up doing anything. I remember a story my dad told me, I don't know, 5 years ago, that just to get me out of the house, he actually paid somebody to pay me. So it looked like I was getting money off of him, but it's actually my dad paying just to get me out of the house. But I loved it because I just wanted to work and it was my money. And so I think entrepreneur spirit and sort of like that ingrained in me. Yeah, it's been in me all my life. I think I just probably didn't realise it until I got into the workplace.
Yeah, definitely. And I've got to mention, I used to sell sweets at school.
Yeah.
And did a bit of Instagram work to make a bit of money. And I'd never really met a proper entrepreneur until I met you.
Oh, wow.
And you were the huge inspiration that was like, oh, maybe you can actually work for yourself.
Yeah.
So thank you for that, Matt.
No problem at all.
So for people that are listening and they don't really know what a franchise is, what actually is it?
Yeah, I think the most important thing, and people sort of come to me now and say about why did you do a franchise? And we have people who want to be a franchisee for NIC, etc. And they ring me and say, well, what's it all about? And the first thing I say is, you're not buying money. You're not buying money. What you're buying is a platform. They've got the back of house, they've got the experience, and they can provide you a platform to do your payroll, to do all the things like your health and safety. They've got all the flashy manuals and things like that. Things that would take me ages to put together, they've got. So you've got a platform. You can use their name. You can use their reference points. You can use them to help do tenders. But really, it's your business. You're not buying money. It's not like I invested. Oh, well, that you've got a job then. It's not that. It's your business. You've got to make it work. I do everything. So I do the HR. I do the sales. I do the operations. I do absolutely every facet of that job. And I know it inside out. And that's been through hard work and millions of mistakes. So franchising gives you a base. And I remember reading a stat that 9 in 10 new businesses fail, 1 in 10 franchises fail. So 90% of franchises succeed and only 10% fail. Yeah. Whereas you reverse that round to people who start their own business, it's the Wild West out there. Whereas at least that gave me a bit of a platform to do it.
Yeah, definitely. And I read a statistic like 50% of young people think about starting their own company, but only 4% actually go into it.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to
I get a
hear
lot of
about that.
people say to me now, like all the time, like, well, what do you think I should do? Do you think I could? And I say it takes a very special type of person to want to do it, because it is your life. When you work for somebody, you go to work, you finish work, you enjoy your weekends. If you have got your own business, you've got to be ready to put the hard work in. And depending on what route you go down, I'm sure there are industries where you don't have to work as hard as the contract cleaning world, but prepare to work hard. It's probably my biggest advice, but work hard.
Wow. So when you first started the franchise, how was them first few months?
Massively
stepping into it?
daunting. Yeah, daunting. I remember my first day very, very vividly. I remember my first year very vividly. And you're literally like, right, okay, I've got to provide for my family now. I've got a mortgage to pay, I've got bills to pay, and I've given up a really highly paid job. I've invested my life savings into a franchise. I've got 3 contracts that totaled about 25 grand, which sounds a lot, but actually 85% that's labour. And then you've got all your other costs. You're probably making about 5 grand a year. You've got to work quick. You've got to network. So I knew a lot of people from the leisure industry, nightclubs. So we did start cleaning a lot of nightclubs very early on. I've since found out they're the hardest ones to do. It's 7 days a week. They're the hardest ones to clean. Every time you clean them, the trash the next day. It's not like cleaning an office where you can keep improving it. So I've learned the hard way. Yeah, it's been a roller coaster. Be prepared to make mistakes. I mean, I was talking to my wife last night, Jen, and she said, "Oh, what was your biggest mistake you made?" And I said, "Look, I've learned from everything, but one of the best stories is when we single-handedly took a carpet clean on of a massive." It was absolutely huge. It was an office block, a solicitor's office block. It's actually my accountant, and there was 4 floors of carpets. And he wanted them clean. I thought, great, brilliant. It was like a 3 grand job. I was absolutely delighted. Anyway, we cleaned all the carpets, and when they dried, there was just like brown marks everywhere. And what had happened was the carpet had got dirty. And when we cleaned them, everything had come up with the coffee stains remained on this like cream carpet. So anyway, I went to the supplier and said, look, what do I do to get rid of these coffee stains? And he said, oh, what you need to do is use this to brown it, but be very careful with it. I used too much, and I bleached. So literally looked like Michael Jackson had been moonwalking all over it. I bleached the car completely. So it was a massive insurance claim. But I learned from it, like, it was a massive error. But, like, they're the things, and it was horrendous at the time. But you reflect back on them and think, you just got to keep making mistakes and learning from them. And that was a big eye-opener. Don't take too big of jobs on too early.
Involved also in different industries, such as day nurseries.
Yeah, I think that came about I think it must be about 8 or 9 years ago now. It might even be 10. I wanted to do something where I walked into somewhere and people were doing a passion that they had for their job. I have very little to do with it in terms of the day-to-day running. I've got an amazing management team in there. I'm really big on standards. I can bring that. I'm good on finances. I'm good on budgets and profit and loss. I can do all that side of it. But you leave the running of the nursery to the experts. And again, that's another franchise. And they come in very regularly. They check, they make sure, they tell me if things are running well or they're not. I'm not the expert. I don't spend much time there. But what I do is I'm always there as a sounding block to the managers. I care deeply about it working, but at the same time, if you split up my week, it's 99.9% contract cleaning, 1% nursery franchising, Banana Moon.
And I think it must be difficult to try and manage not only your work life, but your personal life as well. Yeah,
I think that's something that when you start your own business, you've got to be aware of, that it can take over. I'm a big believer of being a product of your environment. And what I mean by that is having a really good home life is very important. A supportive wife is incredibly important. Realising that she's got dreams and aspirations as well, but she knows that mine can take up a lot of the time. I think making my 2 boys aware of what I do, and that they don't have to go down this path, but this is what it's like if they do. and getting them to understand, like, Alfie's off on holiday this week for 2 weeks, said, you're not just sitting about for 2 weeks, and he's scraping walls in a nursery this week to earn a few quid. And it's getting him to understand that, you got to work hard, and this is what it's like. This is business. You have to get. I've cleaned toilets, I've cleaned floors, I've done the lot. You have to be prepared to get your hands dirty, and don't do anything that you're not prepared. Don't ask anyone else to do something you're not prepared to yourself.
Definitely, because I think you see a lot on Facebook and TikTok and LinkedIn. Oh, I've made 24,000 in 1 hour, and you're like, well, it's not that easy to come by.
No, and I think that the new, I only really came onto I only had a mobile phone when I was 18, so like I'm 42 now. Social media is huge now, and one big message to anyone who is at school is don't believe everything you see on social media of these people's living this dream life. There's no such thing. It's hard work. Great if you're an influencer and you can do that, but that's a 0.0001%. The real graft is, if you're an entrepreneur, the real graft is your day to day. I'm afraid it's not an easy ride.
Definitely. And at the start of your kind of franchising career, was there any moments that you were like, this is not going to work, I'll have to step back?
I don't think I've always been really, really positive.
Yeah.
I think that I've always been very driven, and I think probably a fear of failure. I think that being at a private school, although I wasn't an academic, everyone around you is successful. All their parents are successful. Everyone you talk to is successful. And because otherwise, how do you afford to go to private school? So I think that thought, I remember thinking, going to these houses, God, I've got to half work hard to achieve what these guys have achieved. I think that was something that stuck with me. I went to comprehensive school as well, and there's just different pressures at a private school. Private school, it's almost like, well, you've been born with the silver spoon, you've got to achieve. Whereas actually it can actually be a pressure as well, and it doesn't suit everybody. And private school isn't for everybody, but I think it gave me a good grounding, and it made me look at a lot of my best friends are my friends from my 3 years at Bannercastle. 2 of them were ushers at my wedding. So like, if I look at that and think, you know what, like, of all the friends I've got, and I've got a big social network, I still talk to 2 of my best friends all the time from school. I was there 3 years, but they're good people, and I think it's really important to remember your roots as well and where you came from. But keeping those core of friends from a long time ago is really important.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that when I was in school, entrepreneurialism, franchises were never talked about. It was lawyer, doctor, whatever. So do you think that could be something that the schools would benefit from?
Yeah, I think they're massively missing a trick. I think they're, for me, electricians, plumbers, engineers, there's so many different types of industries out there. And I think they could really do with far more talking about careers at school and what could be. Talk about franchising, talk about starting your own business, how to do a VAT return, talk about how you're going to pay your mortgage. I just don't think there's enough of it. I mean, I remember doing business studies and absolutely loving it, thinking, wow, and doing the case studies. And I remember, we had to do like a project at school to try and make money. And I remember thinking, yes, I love this, but there needs to be more of that, because there's so much more than just getting your A-level GCSEs, your A-levels. There's so much more, but you're so pigeonholed into academic, but there's so much more out there in life. There's so many different paths people can take. They're at school, your horizons just aren't broadened enough for me. And you're just channeled down this route of academic, and that isn't for everybody. And you shouldn't have to, if you're at school and you're not an academic, you shouldn't have to be pigeonholed that you've just got to get these GCSEs. It's not, that's not real world. When you leave school, you're out in the big wide world. They need to give more experiences to people as to what's out there. There's so much more than just academic.
Definitely. We'll be interested to see in the next sort of 5 to 10 years if they do take on board these kind of thoughts, but it's not.
It feels like they're going down the apprenticeship route more.
Yes.
It feels like when I was at school, it was you did your GCSEs, then you moved to A-levels, whereas now a lot of people have finished their GCSEs and they're now going into apprenticeships, or they're doing other things. That's really positive. But you don't have to make the first step be your last step. You don't have to do one thing. You can do something for 5 years and go, do you know what? I fancy doing something else, or actually I can do this. But I think at school, you're like, so what are you going to do when you leave school? Like, that's the end of it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be a teacher. No, like there are lots of different, like I've done leisure, I've done nightclubs, I've done cleaning, I've done nurseries. Skills are adaptable. They really are. And if you're good with people, then skills are adaptable.
Definitely. And on that sort of topic, school teaches you a little bit of skills, but what skills do you use most in your day-to-day life that school didn't ever teach you?
I'd say learning to deal with people. I mean, 1 minute I could be talking to somebody of a multi-academy trust with a contract that's worth £1 million. And next minute I could be talking to one of the clean staff and just understanding their day, and so you've got to be able to deal with the big clients, but you've also got to be able to talk to people as well and understand that it's their job and understand that they've got a life outside of work as well and things are important to them. So I think the ability to be able to talk to lots of different people is so important. I'd say that that's crucial, to have a personality where you're able to adapt.
Yeah. And I've got to mention, Matt, you're a very busy man. Alongside running these businesses, you also run a kids' football team.
Yeah, 2.
2 kids' football teams. So what do you get from that personally? I
think it's really important when you're an entrepreneur, you have time to check out. And I've got ADHD, so I'm always on the go, and it's not a weakness. I always class it as superpower. I've just got more energy than everybody else. I love football, and when I start, it's 2 hours a week out of my time during the week. Yes, there's other bits that goes with it. I can't have my phone on when I'm coaching the kids. The kids should have your life. There's too much going on. Stop kicking the footballs. Don't do that. But it's a great release during the week to train the kids, and you get a lot out of it. But the most important thing for me is, yes, winning's great. Yes, I'm ultra competitive. But if I can just rub off a couple of things to them about working hard, being a decent person, learning to win, learning to lose, that's so important to me. Yes, getting to the weekend when you've got a match day is amazing, and I look forward to it every week. But it's a release. It's something different from work. Like, golf's great, but takes up a lot of time. So yes, I love playing golf as much as possible, but it's not always possible. But just coaching the kids at football just is a release, something I can enjoy. I'm really lucky that I work with other coaches that are mint as well, and I get on really well with them, and we batter ideas of each other. You think we're running Man United at times. We talk about it that much, but it's just something to release from work, something to enjoy. And obviously I'm coaching both my boys' teams. I get to spend time with them, watch them progress. I'm lucky they both love football, and it's a release from work. It's a release from work, something that I need. Put my phone down, no laptop, run around, enjoy it, and hopefully I was never incredible at football, but a few of my skills can rub off on them.
Definitely, and I think it's not only football skills. I remember tips from my first sports coaches from when I was like 5 years old.
Yeah.
And they have such like an impact on your life, don't they?
Yeah. I think it's a big responsibility. I do, and I take it really seriously. And I try to shape the boys that you conduct yourself in the right way. If you win, you can celebrate. You shake hands first. If you lose, you shake hands. If the other opposition team lose a penalty shootout, you don't run off celebrating. You go up and shake their hands first. Then you can celebrate. You've got to lose and win with dignity. And I think if I can just rub a little bit of that off of them about what hard work is, what it's great when you're winning every week. It's amazing. But my oldest team that have won constantly all the way through the age groups have not got a single point this season. And that's been a different challenge. It's been like blowing up a dinghy with a hole in it every week. But I've told them, sticking together when times are tough is what life's about. And that's business as well. It's great when everything's going well. It's when it's going badly. There, when you find out your characters. And I can tell you now, there's 4 or 5 in the team that I coach. I can tell you're going to do well. Because when the going gets tough, they dig deep. It's the ones who walk away or don't give their all. They're the ones you can say, you might struggle in life if you've got this attitude going forward. So if I can just rub off 5% on them that working hard is important, then I've done my job.
No, definitely. And you mentioned a little bit about how that reflects in business. Do you think that there's many skills that come from coaching kids that are also in building a team within your companies?
Yeah, I think I probably take it from building a team at work and then trying to build a team in football as well, to try and create that sort of like positive environment. Look, I've got 200 odd 150 cleaners. I'd be lying if I knew them all personally, but I've got 7 or 8 mobile supervisors and 4 or 5 managers. I do know them fairly well. I get on well with them. I'm extremely loyal to them. I understand they've got a life outside of work, and sometimes that can have an impact on their work. So are skills transferable? I think so, because I think being a good leader, I'm a big believer is there's those that say they can do and there's those that do.
Yes.
And I believe that I'm a doer. And I think that's the difference. And if I can just rub a little bit that off on the kids, be a doer. Don't be someone who says they're going to do something. Yes. Go and do it.
No, that is brilliant. That's such good advice. If someone's listening and they're leaving school 16 to 18 and they feel like they're not very academic, what would you say to them?
I would say pick something that you've got a passion for, and go and get some work experience doing it. I would say speak to people, as many people as you can that you look up to, get their advice, surround yourself by good people, because you can very easily take the easy route and go down the wrong path. You can very easily get in with the wrong crowd and go down the wrong path. Surrounding yourself with good people who give you good advice. I would love that if somebody listened to this podcast and they saw this and thought, I'm leaving school this year, I really don't know what to do. If they picked up the phone to me, not only would I love that, I would embrace that, and I would pick up the phone to them, I'd talk to them, I'd help them. I've invested in 2 or 3 startup businesses, and it's given me great pleasure that these people are thriving. I don't even want to make any money off it. I just like seeing them do well. As long as I get my investment back, I'm absolutely delighted. So for me, I think that there isn't just one route to success in life if that's what you want. Happiness is the most important thing. But if you can surround yourself by good people, and if you can get the right advice, follow your dreams, be prepared to work hard, and do not worry if your first career doesn't work out, your second one might, your third one might. Until you find your feet, don't panic about it. Just get a job and understand what work life is. Yeah. If just getting up in the morning, going to work, finishing, working hard, you'll pick things up along the way. Show good work ethic, be reliable. But if you start calling in sick and not really caring about the job, then find something else, because it's clearly not for you. You've got to find something you've got a passion for.
No, definitely. And if someone wanted to get into the franchise industry specifically, some of them have got quite a high entry cost.
Yes.
But what advice would you give to them?
I would say that if you've got a genuine passion for something, then get a bit of money behind you. You can save money if you still live at home with parents, or you're not on the housing allowance. You can save money, and then go to a franchise exhibition, because if you go to one in Birmingham, it's absolutely packed full of franchisees, franchisors, and speak to as many as you can. I think I spoke to 30 different franchises. Wow. And they all wanted me to join. Of course they did. And I wouldn't say that you could ask my wife, I don't have a passion for cleaning, but business I do. And I saw that one with complete opportunities, everywhere needs cleaning. So that one for me was the one that stuck. But there's so many different franchises out there. But speak to one that you got, speak to as many as you can, and the one you got the passion for, go for it. But yeah, I think go out to work for someone first. Yes. Understand what you might want to do. Don't go and plough all your money into something straight away. Understand what you might want to do first and what could work before you start committing to anything. You don't have to do a franchise day one when you leave school. I would say go out and earn your stripes. Go and work hard, go and get up, go to work, finish, do a good job. Be reliable, be a good person. And you just know what? Someone might see something in you, pick you up and take you down a different route. Yeah. And that's absolutely fine. But yeah, go to a franchise exhibition, to the answer to your question, because there's opportunities there.
And I think it would be difficult going into one of these exhibitions, because I'm kind of one of them people, I think you are the same as well, Matt, where you really work hard, you've got something, and now it's what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And it's hard to kind of step back and say, oh, I've actually achieved that. Yeah. You're just always looking forward, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so it must be difficult to go into all these exhibitions and say, oh, well, I could do that.
Yeah, it's daunting when you get there. Just talk to as many people as you can, and you'll get a feel for a franchise. Think, I could do that. But yeah, I would say I wouldn't even start looking for a franchise until you've done the graph for 5 years. And then you might go, do you know what? Well, I did leisure, didn't I? And I saw a gap in the market for contract cleaning. It might just be something else. There's so many different franchises out there. I mean, if you got onto Domino's 20 years ago, you'd have been a huge success. You just can't get one.
Honestly. So what mistakes should young people try to avoid early on, no matter what kind of industry they're going into or career path?
I would say don't try and run before you can walk. Like I said before, get a job, learn a trade, dig deep, work hard, get up in the mornings, go to work, put your work stuff on, do a good hard day's work. Don't try and think you've got to achieve straight away. I mean, starting at the bottom and working your way up is what I've done. You know, I've cleaned toilets, I've done the lot, and I think that they put you in good stead. I reflect back a lot of when I was younger, and I remember I'd done quite well in the sort of hotel industry, and then went to go and get a job working abroad in ski chalets as the manager, and I failed. I didn't get through the process, and I'd given up my job because I was really unhappy. And then I ended up working in the pub down the road, and all of the families from my school used to go there, and I'm a waiter in there. I used to set the bar up clean. I used to be a waiter. I remember very vividly having to sort of do all the dishes and stuff, and the chefs, because I went to private school, used to burn the cheese sauce on the bottom of the pan, so I had to scrape it off because I said he's been at private school, he's going to have to learn. And I look back on those times and think, you know what, they really put me in good stead. That I had a good work ethic, and that was what gave me the belief that, you know what, I'm willing to work hard. So entrepreneurship is for me. That is the route I need to go down. So it's always been, I think certain people have got it ingrained in them. Yeah. They've got a good work ethic, and that's the most important thing.
Definitely. And if you look back at your different industries and your careers and your personal life, what do you think's the thing that you've been like most proud of?
I think resilience. I think, you know, when the going's really, really difficult and you're really facing tough times, tough days, I've had this incredible ability to put my work shirt on, go to work, do a good day. You know, I've had breakups, I've had lots of difficult times, but I've always managed to get out of bed, do a good hard day's work and be proud of that. And I think because I've got so much evidence of that, it's given me the ability to have a belief in myself. I think that's really important.
Definitely. I think when something crops up that's not too great, you just look at what you've been through, don't you?
Yeah, and because you've built those building blocks. So, for instance, like, you know, as I was saying before, do 5-6 years working somewhere, because that will put you in such good stead that you did something maybe you didn't love doing, maybe it was really hard work, but you've got that behind you. You know you've got a good work ethic. Yeah. You know you've gone to work and you didn't want to. Like, my big thing was never call in sick unless you're literally on death's door. Always go and give 110%, even when you don't feel it. Just make sure that you put a good day's graft in. And I think that they were the building blocks that then enabled me to then progress to say, you know what, I can do this on my own.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's brilliant. And if you think of the definition of success, everyone thinks, oh, big house, Range Rover. How do you define your success now compared to when you were younger, or has it stayed the same?
It's a brilliant question. I think when you're younger, you want big house, you want the really flashy car, and you want all the best designer clothes. Yeah. And it's funny that when you start to do okay, those things don't mean as much. Yes, it's nice to have nice clothes, but the clothes I was dreaming of when I was 21, I've never bothered with. I think happiness is just so important. Going back to what I said before about creating a good environment at home, I think you're a product of your environment. I think having a good, stable home is happiness. Yeah. I think seeing the kids happy is happiness. Priorities change. So yeah, I think that they're the things that when I was younger, it was so important to have the best of everything. But when you get older, it's like, actually, I just want to be happy. I want to enjoy time with the family. I want to enjoy time playing golf. I've got no major interest to be like a multi-billionaire. I want to be happy. I want to retire as early as possible. I want to see the world. I want to enjoy life. And I want to have enough money to be able to go and do the dreams I've always dreamed of, going to the Masters golf that's on at the moment, watching the Boxing Day test, at the, for the Ashes, go to a World Cup final. Have the money to do them, but I think it's really important to not get to the top of the mountain, think you've achieved everything, retire and go, what else is there? I don't want to do that. I want to make sure I've got enough hobbies and foundations in place that I've still got aspirations to do well. And to be honest, I don't think I'll ever fully retire. I'll always have to have something on the go to keep my mind active.
That is brilliant. So we'll end with the final question that we always ask Matt. If you could sit down with your younger self, what advice would you give him?
I think believe in yourself, work hard, be honest. I think you've got to be honest with yourself. I think you've got to be surround yourself by good people. I think you've got to make sure that you put foundations in place before you can start to think about running your own business. I think you've got to dig really deep to understand if that's really what you want, because it's not for everybody. Some people are better off working for other people. I regularly talk to my wife, Jen. She's the best employee ever because she really loves her job. She's really passionate about it. Would she be great at running her own business? I don't know, but I don't think that's where her strengths are. I think she's better at working for someone, and I know I'm better at working for myself. So I think be honest with yourself, dig deep, and don't put too much pressure on yourself. Don't have these massive... It's good to have goals. Don't put pressure on yourself. Be prepared to fail, because it's going to happen. It's how you come back from it is the most important thing.
Definitely. Well, your journey's certainly inspiring, Matt. Thank you so much for your time on the
No
podcast
problem,
today.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Source Force.